I matter. I matter. Black lives matter. Black bodies matter. America, I love you. Do you see me? The names that we are hearing shouted on streets. Ahmaud Arbery was a man. He was 25 years old when he was murdered. He went out jogging, for he was hunted by two white men who walked free for weeks after killing him. This man, his loved ones talked to his humanity. They said he was a loving son, a brother, an uncle, a nephew, a cousin, and a friend. He was humble. He was kind. He was well-mannered. He always made sure that he never departed his loved ones without saying, I love you. Breonna Taylor, extraordinary American, extraordinary servant. She is a first responder. In a pandemic, like so many of our first responders, she showed a courage, humble heroism. She was 26 years old when she was shot and killed by police, asleep in her home. And George Floyd, to his friends and loved ones, he was known as Floyd. In high school, I know this, he was an athlete, playing both basketball and football. He played the position I played. He was a tight end. His girlfriend called him an angel that was sent to us on earth. His family remembered him as being family-oriented, loving, and godly. Floyd was a loving father. He was a devoted brother. He was a partner, and he was friend, and he is dead at 46 years old. The killings of George Floyd, of Breonna Taylor, of Ahmaud Arbery are singular in their pain, are singular in their particular details, in the anguish and the horror. But this is a terror that is familiar. It is a fear that is baked now, cemented into our culture. For so many Americans, especially Black Americans, this has not just been a tough few weeks. It's not just been emotional time because of what we're seeing, the protests all around the country. This has been a tough life. This is the story of day after day after day that punctuates our consciousness only when someone captures on videotape what is a regular part of the fabric of our country. We have a long and wretched and disturbing history in this country of Black people being murdered by law enforcement. Our systems of accountability, our systems of transparency, our ability to end this has proved impotent and feeble. These killings for so many Black Americans today are searing reminders that Black people in this country, as I've heard from dozens of people in my life, as we hear from people on our media, that this could have been me in the same circumstances. To hear people at all stations of life, African Americans, saying, I'm alive, but questioning for how long, slipping into savage reality of despair for your life and your safety. To be Black in America is to know that a misunderstanding, that an implicit racial bias, that a interaction that should be everyday and routine can become a moment where your life is turned upside down, where your body becomes broken, or when you are killed. This cycle of violence in our country, these spasms that jerk us from our comfort and pull us into the world that is faced by so many African Americans. And then we go back. So many of us go back to what is now normal in America, what has been normal in America. I hear people now talking about the violence, the rioters. I condemn it in the same way that the other 99 members are. It is awful, it is despicable, it is contrary to the aims of this nation and the movements of our past. But to condemn the violence of those out there doing such awful, destructive, condemnation-worthy actions but to only condemn them and not to condemn the fullness of that cycle of violence, because there is violence going on even when we don't see it in the streets. Peace even is not just the absence of violence, it's the presence of justice. This unjust cycle in our country that we seem to be stuck in, that makes the names of children like Tamir Rice household names. It is connected with the violence that is pervasive in our nation, that demands all of us to speak out against with the same fervor and enthusiasm and energy that people are condemning the violence we're seeing in America today. It's why so many Black Americans scream out, "Do you see me? I do not have your equal justice under law. Do you see me? I do not have justice for all. Do you see me? I matter. I matter. Black lives matter. Black bodies matter. America, I love you. Do you see me? Do you know my experiences? Do you see the failings of our ideals?" The murder of a Black man by multiple cops who knew they were being filmed in broad daylight is not the extent of the problem of racism in America. It is a final and deadly manifestation of that racism. I confess to you, as a man who believes in this country and believes in the ideals of hope and love and faith and charity and kindness, I want to confess to you something, that right now, hope is essential, but it's not enough. I confess to you right now, words of kindness and grace are essential to America, but they're not enough right now. I confess to you even something that's hard to admit, that the spirit of courage and grit being shown by people on the streets, not in the comfortable hallways of the Senate, who in one of the most noble traditions of our nation are protesting, are petitioning their government, or peacefully gathering. I want to tell you right now that that is not enough. In a nation where so many people have been so thoroughly failed, they can still manifest the ability to fight for the ideals that have been denied for them. They are the ones right now whose spirit we all must try to summon. We'll come up short, but we must try to summon it. It is the only way forward. That somehow this nation that shares one spirit can find a way to put enough indivisible into this one nation under God, that somehow this great country can find a way in this time of our generation's great crisis, that out of this crisis time, we can make this nation be truly one of liberty and justice for all.